It's the Delicious Recap. We love to revisit the 90s sitcom Family Matters. Great immune system or no great immune system. I am Jon Francois. Who, sir, are you?
My name is Sho Chow, and if you are a TikTok user, you know who that is. This is the CEO of TikTok who came out and released a statement for all you knuckle draggers out there that thought Mark Zuckerberg or Musk was going to buy TikTok. He said he's not selling it. He's standing on business, so that's why I'm in today.
Awesome. Andrew Ajay Vandertunt, aka the CEO of TikTok. If you want the Family Matters episode recaps and interviews that we've done with some of the cast and crew earlier, the Patreon is an option. Patreon.com/delicious recap. That is patreon.com/delicious recap. And you can get that early access for just $5 a month. We implore you to do such a thing. And we are getting into season 2, episode 18, Life of the Party. If you don't know what the fuck we're talking about, aka, yes, it is the Urkel Dance episode. And the original air date is February 8th, 1991. Janet Lynn Jackson, no, not Michael Jackson's sister, just some random person called Janet Lynn Jackson, who was quite a talent. She wrote this episode. I'm trying to get in touch with her on social media. She's one of those people that has like both a Facebook and Instagram with like the same exact profile picture, Andrew, and maybe like 68 followers. So it could be a bot. It could not be a real account. I don't know, but I really want to reach out to her. Janet, if you're listening, please come on the show. We got to ask you about this episode, which now has a iconic viral moment that's been shared on social media many times over. Gary Mentier directs it, and guest starring, what do we got? We got Robert Boulderson as the cop, who should have been Carl, to be honest with you. Sean Harrison returns as Waldo Geraldo Faldo. Maxine Johnson, no, Sherry Johnson returns as Maxine Johnson. And Lorenz Tate returns as Willie Fuffner. Our pretty straightforward Hulu summary. Steve Urkel gets drunk and falls off the roof at Maxine's party when the uninvited Willie adds liquor to Steve's punch. Now, uninvited Willie. Wasn't Steve also uninvited? Was he invited?
Yeah, I don't think Steve was invited, and we're going to get into it, but I don't think Willie was not invited. I actually think Willie got an invite.
Well, I'm interested to hear that theory. Okay. Our rating system, I mean, pretty much, y'all love meals like your appetizer, your junk food, your main course, your dessert. We're gonna describe parts of the episode as if it's a meal. So that's all you need to know going into it. I think that is about it. Yeah, let's get into the cold open where yes, we got the Winslow family talking over each other, debating on where they're going for their week-long vacation. But first, Andrew, did you notice the lack of the usual upbeat instrumental as we open with like the Family Matters logo and the Chicago skyline? It was hearing the voices of Carl and everybody else talking over each other. I don't know. I just thought that was a different way to open the cold open.
It was an interesting choice to open the show that way, the cold open. I don't like this cold open. This is junk for me. And the
Wow.
junk happens in the first 2 seconds. I don't like whoever thought that this was a good way to like show a family debate. Everybody's talking over each other,
Yeah.
but nobody is not talking. Everybody is just blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It looks so weird. It looks like they're supposed to be background actors and not the main cast.
Interesting. Okay. Now, is that somewhat related to maybe a different approach you would take to talking to your family about how to settle a vacation, or is it just simply a matter of like the cold open wasn't executed well?
I just don't think it was executed well, to be honest. I can get a family debate over like where to go, but typically that's like one person defending where they want to go against everybody else. This just looked like people talking at each other and there was no substance.
All right, all right. Well, I actually found my appetizer in this cold open. And as we mentioned, the family's talking over each other, and Carl does the thing that I want to do anytime my family talks over each other, because that happens a lot at holidays and vacations, is to just take out a loud ass air horn and like, all right, everybody, shut the fuck up. Listen to me, one voice at a time. Let's establish some order here because I don't know if it's like that with your family gatherings when they're trying to come with to some consensus on something, but it just ends up being a million voices all at once with different ideas, different opinions. Nobody's listening to each other. Sometimes you just need a fucking dictator to come in with an air horn.
So my family dynamic is kind of funny. For family vacations, we choose a spot to go and then we all just show up there however we decide to get there. And it kind of turns into an adventure for each of us.
I like that. Okay. I like that because you start with an organized base and choosing a spot, and then from there you decide to build off of that with like many layers of spontaneity. I think that's a great way to go.
It's a fun way, it limits arguments. However, I would love to have an air horn just to use when anyone in this world talks to me in person.
So Harriet is suggesting that the family go to New York to take in some theater. And as someone who did that recently with my wife for my birthday last year, I think that is a very fun, great idea, Harriet. And I knew, oh my God, Rachel is so that aunt. I knew even before she opened her mouth that actually, no, never mind. I take that back. I knew when she started with go to the beach, it was going to end with meeting some men. And the fact that she made it rhymed was even better. She was like, go to the beach, catch some Z's, and then catch a man around his knees. And I assume that means looking at a man from the sand, knees up, and maybe he has a good peen. I don't know.
That is not where I saw that going.
well, peen rhymes with knees, so I figured, hey, peen.
You know what? It works. You get to see a little China and you're having some fun.
There you go. Now, you reacted as if you were like relating to Rachel that could be a great day on the beach.
That is my vacation to me. I am one of those people on vacation. Don't plan to do anything with me. I plan on having absolutely no plan. I want to lounge on the beach, eat good food. That is a vacation to me.
I love that. I love that. Now, in regards to Rachel's idea, I was like, okay, that takes care of you and Mama Winslow. We know that. But then you got like the already married Carl and Harriet. You got the kids, Eddie, Judy, and Laura. So what are they gonna do? That was the question that was going on in my mind. Now, I will say you don't like this cold open, but maybe, just maybe, when Rachel was talking about her beach idea, you might have noticed your favorite little Richie doing his happy kid dance right next to Rachel. Like he was so like excited, like, oh my God, I might have a new daddy and he might financially support us and we might move out and have our own house. Like, yay, mommy, go get your man.
You know the funny thing? I didn't notice that little Richie was in this episode until I rewatched it earlier today.
Well, I don't blame you because he's literally only in this cold open. It's easy to miss him.
He's very easy to miss, but his little dance was super cute.
Yeah, it's like the potty dance. Like, oh my God, I gotta go to the bathroom. I look so excited, but I really have to go pee. Yeah. Hey, did you? I don't know if you picked up on Judy's pro-environment stance with her "Love Your Earth" sweatshirt. Did you catch that?
She had a beautiful little Earth Day sweatshirt. I loved it.
Yeah, yep. She was suggesting Disney World as an idea, and I love Mama Winslow, but would you suggest going down to Graceland to pay respects to Elvis as a fun family vacation idea?
So I still don't know where Graceland is. Is that in Vegas?
No, it is down south. It is oh God, maybe Tennessee. That is a good
Oh
question.
no. See, that sounds like a plantation. No, Mama Winslow. Now I know. No. Mm-mm.
Graceland, mansion by Elvis Presley. All right, where is that? Yeah, yeah. So it's in Memphis, down in Memphis.
No, I want to get lynched. I'm not going.
I'm sure Memphis has gotten more progressive since those days. I hope.
John, it's Memphis. You know what? It's the United States of America. Stop it.
Okay, all right. So we know that Mama Winslow is going to die as she has a family vacation. So R.I.P. And Carl, I love Carl, but man, this is such an old dad suggestion when he was suggesting Lake Geneva in Wisconsin for what, going to a cabin and doing some fishing. Look, if you're like a solitary dad, you want your own space, you want some peace and quiet. I can vibe with that. I'm not a dad, but I think that's peaceful. But if you're talking about like that, large, loud, frantic Winslow family, that overstimulating black family that you and I know so well, like that's not going to cut it. People are going to get bored and they will let you know.
Now, I'm going to tell you this. While
Uh-oh.
I love beaches, Carl's idea would actually be my first choice for vacation.
I can see that. Yeah, yeah. You seem like it seems like a very nice, relaxing thing next to the beach. Yeah.
I love it. And if I had kids or I went on a vacation to a whole mountain lake with people, And they're like, there's nothing to do. I'm like, the thing you can do is be quiet and leave me alone and go explore. Go explore. You will find something to get into.
Yeah. I mean, personally, like if it was just me and the wife, yeah, we would definitely do something like that. We're very much peace, quiet, boring, do nothing kind of people. But I know that say if I was going on vacation with my family, I'd just be too anxious about like, oh my God, like when are they gonna just get impatient? When are they gonna talk over each other? When are they gonna get bored? Like it's they're the type of people I know that if they're in a group, there needs to be like constant simulation in some form. And I've learned from being here in Vermont, about a few hours away from them in Connecticut, that like, hey, a good, loud, raucous, good time is nice every now and then, but also so is quiet. A quiet time by Lake Geneva.
Quiet time is always fun. That's why you have vacation drunk. Like you get vacation drunk or vacation sober, and then the family is tolerable.
Now, my last thought on this cold open, and I think I already got my answer from you because I did want to get your thoughts about how to handle, this kind of like frantic family vacation situation. Like, how does that decision get made? I mean, I think you already kind of proved it where you started from, all right, let's come up with an idea family, a small, simple idea of where to go. And then from there, we can kind of do spontaneous activities. The way this Winslow family is handling the whole vacation debate, it just seems like it was going to be a good idea to maybe take turns each year. Like, oh, one year it's Rachel's idea for a vacation. The other year it's Carl's idea for a vacation. The other year it's Mama Winslow's idea for a vacation. Because they seem like they're very passionate about their own individual ideas, and to try to be like, oh yeah, my idea is gonna win. It's like, maybe we should take turns. Maybe that'll solve something.
They got to take turns. Then, like, just thinking of them back then and their family dynamic, all of them are going to have to be in a car no matter where they go. It doesn't seem like they are going to fly anywhere. So, like, choosing a vacation spot, you've got so many factors to layer in there. And MapQuest wasn't even a thing back then. So, I can imagine that planning had to be super tough. And then, with everybody wanting something different, they need an organized system.
They do. They do. And we will find out if they do when this B story gets resolved like 2 seconds before the episode ends, because it's the weirdest fucking thing. I thought that this B story would disappear after the cold open. I wasn't even prepared to call it a B story. I thought we were just going to have an A story all throughout. But the fact that this story comes back toward the end of the episode, it's like, oh, we have a B story. Okay.
Yeah, this episode, I have a bone to pick with the people who made this episode. Because this episode, what were y'all doing? Because it does not flow smoothly at all.
We get into scene one in the living room where Laura and Maxine are preparing the invitations for Maxine's party that she's about to have on that rooftop. What do you think about this scene?
I thought it was cute. Like, I imagine this is how everybody with their friends in school is planning for a party. Like, ooh, we should bring this person, this person. Poor Harvey that they talked about only has 4 teeth, and I felt so bad for him.
Harvey Garvey. Oh, I have some thoughts about Harvey Garvey. Maxine looked like she grew up significantly since the last time we saw her. Is that because it's been a while since we've last seen her? I think like this was it the science?
The science project was the last episode she was in, and she is definitely taller.
Not the science project episode. That's the one where Laura dreamed up that Steve was about to blow up the world. I'm talking. I'm thinking of.
Or one.
I think Marriage 101 when Steve and Laura paired up for that. Is if that's right, that was like episode 3 of season 2, and we're like in episode 18. What the fuck? It's been
Yeah,
that long?
it's that episode because they were partnered up to take care of the baby or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah, well, they were just partnered up in a marriage project. I don't know if there was a baby involved, but mm, hold on. Oh no, no, no. Actually, no, no, no. The science project. She was in that one. She was in that one because I remember Maxine and Laura. They were standing off to the side and just kind of poo-pooing all the other classmates that were like fawning over Steve, trying to get them to be the science project partner. Yeah,
mhm.
it was the science project. That was the last time we saw Maxine. Yep.
Maxine has had a noticeable growth spurt. She is taller, and she's always been taller than Laura, I think, through the entire series, but you can see the difference this time.
Yeah. And I also picked up on the fashion difference between her and Laura in this particular scene. Maxine looks, I would say, casual 90s urban cool with her button down tucked into the jeans. Laura to me almost looks like a Mormon's wife with that dark blue dress that she had on. Was it a dress or was it like just a shirt That
I think it was a dress. Like it was
okay.
very modest. It was very church girl. Like it was modest.
And a proper metaphor for the fucking annoying purist way that Laura was treating drinking later on in the episode. I have thoughts about that because I was just like, shut the fuck up, Laura. uh yeah, so we get to Harvey Garvey. This guy gives me nightmares once I see him. Laura is wondering why Maxine is inviting a guy with only four teeth to their party. Maxine is just like, yeah, but he doesn't eat much. And I love how you say that you felt bad for Harvey because when I heard that line, it was like, oh, I don't know how to take that because it's like, oh, it's kind of cruel to disinvite somebody just because of the teeth thing that they probably couldn't control. And also, like, they're not going to enjoy the party like everybody else because they won't be able to eat. It's like, I'm sure it's meant to be funny, but I'm also like, oh, poor Harvey.
I felt bad for Harvey because I'm like, y'all didn't have to call his teeth out like that so early. But I probably would have thought the same thing because Maxine's throwing this party for the popular kids and she wants a boyfriend at the end of this. And is Harvey Garvey really the person with four teeth?
It's more teeth, but Jesus Christ, the way those teeth are spread out and the gum exposure. Oh man, I got PTSD from seeing that twice, by the way. I saw that shit twice.
Oh my God, I laughed. It was hilarious.
It freaks me the fuck out. I mean, I was smiling, but I was like, it was like that sort of like amused fear, if you know what I mean. Like
Uh-huh.
you're like 20% amused, but like 80% like, oh my God, like what the fuck? Like that kind of reaction.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So we confirmed that Maxine is having her parents allow her to have a party on the rooftop, and they have new carpet, so that's wonderful. Question for you. Um, well, actually, you know what? We find out later on through the whole Steve rescue scene. It looks that's an apartment building that they're in, right?
Yeah, that's an apartment building they're in.
Okay. Do the parents own the apartment building, or do they just have a very generous landlord that would allow a bunch of teenagers to have a rooftop party?
I feel like the parents have a generous landlord that they lie to because I don't think any landlord would be like, yeah, have all of these kids on the rooftop. But like in my place, I can go up to the rooftop and go smoke, hang out up there. There's a lounge area, and my building is kind of the same as hers. So I can see like it being like allowable, but I'm pretty sure they didn't say all these kids were going to be there.
Right, right. And then we have Rachel coming in. I love how she's volunteered to cater this underage teenager party that eventually turns dangerous. And I don't know what. I mean, Rachel's just using food from Rachel's place to cater this party, something like that. She's asking Maxine for more money if she does not want bad chips and watered down punch. And Maxine, being any cheap young kid who's looking to have a good time, she's just like, no, sure, that's fine. And then Rachel complains that she'll use the profits from this party to buy a stamp. And I was like, Rachel, do you know how old Maxine is? She's like a preteen, a teenager. How much were you going to expect from her? You're probably better off asking her parents. Like, if you're trying to make money for Rachel's place, I don't know if this is the way to do it.
It really isn't. Like, did you think that you were going to get a catering fee? Like, no way, girl. This is a child. She has no money. Yeah.
By catering fee, do you mean a piece of bazooka bubble gum and a nice soda, a nice can of soda?
Oh my God, John. Both of the things you just named give me PTSD because both of those things will destroy your teeth.
Oh, like just having consuming them at the same time, gum and soda.
Consuming them at any point in your life, bazooka gum and soda will destroy your teeth.
Wow, good to know. I mean, luckily I barely drink soda other than like ginger ale on the weekends or just
Mhm.
whenever I have time off from work. But bazooka gum, I have not eaten that in like 20 something years. I wonder if they're still in business.
It is. It's still in business. I used to have to repair people's braces every week after they tried to chew bazooka gum. It's still out there.
So maybe like you don't see them as much anymore because they have a bad reputation because of that.
No. Oh no. People love bazooka gum. That stuff is addictive.
It's a tough chew though. It's a
It's a
really
tough chew. It is. But it's addictive. Bazooka gum is actually a addictive gum. It's the
wow.
sugar in it that hooks kids to it.
Anything else for scene one?
That is it. Because now I'm thinking about bazooka gum.
About how it's gonna kill your teeth and make your life a nightmare if you were in the dentistry field. Oh. All right, part one of Maxine's rooftop party, scene 2. What are your thoughts going into this? As we, we got Laura and Maxine. They're all dressed up. We have Harvey in this one. We got Willie and Waldo. Like, what's the vibe? Rachel's in this one. Steve, of course, eventually comes in, I think.
This is a very active scene. The fade in to the party, I didn't expect the party to come so soon in the episode. I'm actually happy it did because it gave us more time to enjoy like the atmosphere. But as soon as it started, the fact that they're playing the song Onion Skin Boom, I think is what it is, or Onion something. Um, the song is so good. I rewound it like 4 times just to listen to the song.
I never have heard that song before. I thought it was a fake, like funky white boy hip hop rock thing that was made just for this show. So I'm gonna have to look into that. That definitely. I'm guessing it seems like it was a hip song to its time,
Oh,
and
I have it on my Shazam because I Shazammed it. It's called Onion Skin by Boom Crash Opera.
nice, love that. Hey, my dessert, one of my desserts. Rachel doing her embarrassing mom dance by her catering table, and Maxine just looking at her like, please stop.
That was a very good moment. The
Yeah.
girl who plays Maxine, her facial expressions are priceless.
Yeah, it was great. And Laura and Maxine have this sort of like complimentary slash insecure teenage girl dialogue in a party setting like this. And I don't know, I mean, we can't speak to this because we're both not teenage girls, but I'm wondering if that's a thing. I'll give you an example. Laura coming in dressed up, she claims she looks hideous, but she also compliments Maxine's look, and then Maxine is like, "Oh, no, 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 you look good, you look good," and Laura's like, "No, no, no, you look good. I just look hideous." Like, is that? I wonder if that's just like a common thing that women or teenage girls do when they're at these events and they're trying to look their best and they just think they look terrible, but they are overly complimentary to the other person and kind of that vibe.
It's normal. I mean, gay men, we do it all the time. It's
Okay.
just a thing that we just do. I don't understand why straight men don't do it because it would make straight parties so much more fun. But like when I show up, because if it starts at 8, I'm showing up at 10. And they're gonna be like, oh my God, why are you late? Because my outfit looked terrible. But I'm gonna be like, oh my God, you look so cute, Frank. It's just like that bouncy dialogue between each other.
Yeah.
Because you're not upset that they're late, but you're like, damn, I wanted to look like that. And you look good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of uptight, homophobic, toxic masculinity with straight men. So obviously, just simply saying, "Hey, you look good in those pants," the other guy could just be like, "Oh, what? What? You want to sleep with me? What? What's going on?" It's awful. Straight men are awful. I speak for all straight men. We need some work. We got a lot of work to do.
Yes, it's just a compliment. Just because I said you have nice pants doesn't mean I want them off of you.
Waldo and Willie, they come together as a combo. Waldo is still the sidekick to Willie, so it was this mixture for me where it's like, yay, Waldo Geraldo Faldo's back, but boo, Willie Fuffner. Love me some Lawrence Tate, but that Willie Fuffner character.
Willie is an interesting character. I was happy that Waldo was back like you. I love their little physical humor between the two of them.
Yeah.
They have some good chemistry.
They do. They do. I have a theory that Sean Harrison feels some type of way with, say, if you were to watch like this part of Waldo, where he was very much the dumb Uncle Tom sidekick to Willie. Like it's that conflicting thing where it's hilarious. Waldo just has a dumbness that's so adorable and funny to see, but at the same time, it's like, what you doing, Willie? How you doing, Willie? Like just the way he talks and the way he repeats Willie's name at the end of every question. It's like, oh, I don't know. I have a feeling that Sean is, maybe has mixed feelings about that part of Waldo.
I mean, Waldo's dialogue has not aged well at
Mm.
all. Like you can tell somebody who was thoroughly detached from a black man wrote those lines.
Yeah, well, Janet Ling Jackson, who's a black woman, wrote those lines, so that might be an interesting conversation that we could have with her.
It really
Um,
would be because I want to know what were you allowed to actually write? Because the same dialogue we heard from other episodes you didn't write.
Yeah. So Rachel continuing that embarrassing mom dance vibe. I'm loving it. She's walking across the rooftop and she's just like, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. And then she looks at Maxine and Laura looking at her horrified, and then she's just like, I'm gone, as she like exits out the rooftop exit door. It's everything. Isn't Rachel that fun aunt that you want, where it's like, okay, you're kind of a train wreck in your personal life, but when we need you at a party to have a good time, you know how to have a good time.
Yeah, Rachel's that aunt. She's the cool aunt who is just nerdy and you love her.
And Jesus fucking Christ. This is where I say Jesus fucking Christ, because this is where we see Harvey Garvey. Laura said, "Oh Lord, it's Harvey Garvey." And when I heard her say that, I thought, "Oh, okay, that is maybe someone that is cute that she likes who's at the party," because they hadn't said Harvey's name in the previous scene yet. So I went through kind of an emotional roller coaster where I first thought it was going to be an attractive guy, and then we reveal Harvey to be the kid with four teeth, who actually has more than four teeth, but there's still quite enough teeth missing where you could see, Jesus, man, God, that kid has gotten that teeth knocked out of him. It was almost like a Halloween decoration, seeing all the gum space between whatever teeth he had left. And when he smiled and waved at Laura, I literally let out a loud, "Oh my God, why?" to my computer. And I don't mean this as an affront to people with teeth like Harvey Garvey, but I think in the context of this sitcom, it's just that boy should not be outside.
No, as soon as they mentioned there's Harvey, I was on the edge of my seat because I'm like, are they going to show him without the teeth? Like, I was so excited. And then when they did, I screamed, "This is my dessert." It was so good. It's one of those hidden gem moments in a TV show where you're like, are they really going to get the joke to completion? And they did. And I screamed.
Never thought it would happen. I will commend Family Matters for following through. I really thought it was just going to be a verbal piece of joke dialogue from the last scene, and we'll leave it at that. But nope, they fully committed to the guy with four teeth, Harvey Garvey. He'll give you nightmares forever, ladies and gentlemen. So the episode, we go from 0 to 100 million really quick, in my opinion. When Laura and Maxine, they go over to Waldo and Willie and a group of other guys to see what they're talking about and ask if they want to dance. Willie is revealing that they're deciding how they want to spike the punch. And then, bam, Waldo opening up his trench coat to reveal like 1,000 tiny bottles of booze on each side. And just as I was wondering how the fuck they got access to these drinks at their age, Waldo revealed that his dad is a stewardess, which I believe is old people speak for flight attendant. Okay. So, what's your theory? You think the dad was just like, meh, I'm going to offer these drinks to the underage minors? Or do you think Waldo was maybe on the plane while his dad was working and he sneaked a lot of bottles of booze in his coat and then ran off to it and therefore is risking his dad's job?
Well, Waldo's dad is obviously breaking the law because he stole all of that liquor from the airlines.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. You had to have taken that illegally from the airlines, or you are a hoarder of liquor who's been collecting them after every flight that you've flown, which I commend you because that's the way to save money. But now we have another problem to address. Why do you have so many shorties?
So many shorties. What are shorties?
Shorties are the little bottles of liquor that he had.
Oh, that's what you call them. Okay, I didn't know they were a nickname. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot. So like are you asking how many shorties like because of the stock in the plane, or just because like the Waldo, or how many the dad got, or what do you mean?
Did Waldo have so many? How does your dad have so many of these little bottles of liquor at home? The airline's not like, oh, here's an employee incentive, here's a box of liquor.
Yeah.
So why do you have all of these bottles of liquor in the first place, Waldo's dad? That's not making sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, he could either be an alcoholic or he's just a guy that's trying to take advantage of whatever free shit he could get from his job, and maybe he didn't secure that lockbox very tightly, and Waldo was able to break into the shorty lockbox at the house, and there you go. He's got
This is
all the liquor.
this is what happens when you fly on Spirit.
Well, darn, I've flown on it twice, and I didn't see any shorties. Next time, I'm gonna look out for it.
This is where the episode has changed and we're approaching a cliff. And this is the start of the after school special that I
Yeah.
hated so much.
Yeah, yeah. You could tell that adult writers are like, oh, like Laura is like we already kind of established Laura as the girl who gets the straight A's, who generally follows the rules. Let's up the ante and let's make Laura a model for all the kids out there that want to get all rebellious with their underage drinking.
I get it. It's the time. But just like the results of Just Say No, that generation that had to listen to that has the highest rates of pregnancy ever, had the most dependent people on meth and crack.
Yeah.
So they didn't do much of a good job.
Yeah. Here's the thing about drinking, everybody listening and watching. If you're underage, yes, it's against the law. We
But
know
it's
that.
fun.
I mean, if you're, I'm guessing you, Andrew, did a lot of underage drinking in your day.
The first time I got drunk was in a church on a school field trip.
There you go. How old were you?
16?
All right. All right. Yeah. I mean, I was just Mr. Good, boring, isolated, shy, awkward boy. So I think literally my 21st birthday was when I really went hard. And by hard, it was a beer and a half when I did not eat dinner. That
You
was
know
hard.
what?
That was hard for
That's
me
still
back in the day.
that's still good though.
I mean, I mean, it's embarrassing when you say it now because now, I mean, I could do more than that and get drunk, but a beer and a half, it's like, oh God, I don't know.
Don't feel bad. You know, I didn't smoke weed until I was 25 because the same way you're like, no, I'm not drinking until I'm 21. That's how I was with weed because I thought weed funded terrorism
Oh.
because of the commercials that we had growing up. So I was always like, you're smoking that wacky tobacco. Meanwhile, I'm four sheets to the wind.
That's surprising because I know how I know how passionate you are about smoking weed. So I thought it was a part of your life from earlier than 25. So it's interesting that it didn't come to you till your mid 20s. I mean, me, I think Tony, my wife, introduced me to weed when we were I think when we were still boyfriend and girlfriend, and by then I think I was in my like late 20s, early 30s. So yeah, I'm a late bloomer like you. And oh yeah, going back to the drinking thing, I mean, just I go back to that line, everything in moderation. You know, just once you're of age, you know, as long as you're not using it to like cure some mental health issue, if it's, you know, I think for the most part to like okay, like if it's like to calm nerves or if it's just to have a good time at a party, like, you know, just be safe about it. That's all. That's all we have to tell people. But no, you know, these puritanical people see a underage drinker or one drunk driving accident and they think, oh, drinking is sin in all forms.
And just Jesus drank. Jesus made liquor.
He made wine.
Like Jesus made us liquor. Like stop it. I
He didn't turn wine into water. He turned water into wine. He was looking to get lit too.
Yes, Jesus knew the benefit of being smashed. Okay. Like I wish because of the times, of course, that's what people are going to go back to of what everybody was thinking. But liquor, it was not the problem. And when you present liquor or alcohol or a substance as the actual problem and not what the responsibilities are outside of that, that's when we get into this area where like Laura as a kid is like drinking is wrong, and then as an adult when she goes to have a drink it's going to fuck her up mentally.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Laura, like we mentioned, says that purist line that we hate so much. And this is where Waldo has a dumbness that I love, love, love. Willie is sarcastically telling Waldo to say hello to Saint Laura, and Waldo is genuinely like, Willie, that's Laura Winslow. And then Willie slaps Waldo upside the head, and I guess that gives him short-term memory because all of a sudden Waldo is like, "Hey, it's a party!"
He like slapped him into a reset.
Loved it, loved it. And I'm shaking my head at Laura big time because she does her purist thing again. She tells Willie to get his drinks and get out of here. Willie says if the booze goes, then the boys go too, which personally I think is fine because those guys, they all seem like a bunch of dumb slobs. If they're just girls at the party, they could have a fun time without them. Maxine takes Laura to an isolated space and tells her it's fine if she doesn't want to drink, but she just has to shut the fuck up. Kind of agreeing with Maxine there.
Maxine had the most adult moment than anybody else in this entire episode.
Yeah. And it's her party, which is great. She's like being a role model for her party. Laura just yells, fine, but I don't need to drink to have a good time. And then she does like this exaggerated sachet walk away from Maxine, like she's Miss Goody Two Shoes who's above it all. Look, underage drinking, I'm against it, but at the same time, Laura, just stop it. You're not above it all because you think drinking is for losers. Just stop it.
Laura, just say you want to drink.
There
That's
you
all
go.
you have to do because she makes this proclamation so loud. Oh, I don't need liquor to have fun. Well, you know what? We didn't see you, Laura. You having fun at all at this party.
Maybe
So I think you needed a little.
probably just a little bit, Ooh, this is an this actually it might be confusing because like a lot of this episode takes place at Maxine's rooftop party. Once we hear the Leroy's Fire drama music that we heard from the season 2 premiere into the next part of this party, that to me is the transition from scene 2 to scene 3. Do you remember that part when
I do.
yeah, yeah, and I think it was Laura. I think when we heard that Leroy's Fire drama music, it was when it was Laura looking sad and left out at the sight of the boys having a good time with the spike punch.
Yes, and they were all crowded around the punch bowl. Very strange, like.
Oh, is that now how people usually do it at parties?
I've never been to a party where everybody's hovering around the punch bowl. That was very weird to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're I don't know, hours into the party at this point. Laura is being told by Maxine that it isn't a big deal that the guys had a few drinks. Laura agrees that nothing terrible has happened yet, which of course is the perfect cue for Urkel to come in to barge in and excitedly be like, "Hey, everybody, party!" To the studio audience applause. And that's when I talked. That's when I told myself, Andrew, oh, that's the Urkel Dance episode. Like I was gaining suspicion that this might be the Urkel Dance episode, but it was at this moment seeing Urkel and the way he dressed, and then also remembering that Laura and Maxine dressed in their certain way. It just all brought it together for me.
That moment of doom and gloom, that crushing feeling in your heart. Is that what you felt?
No, well, like meaning that like I was gonna be let down.
Yeah.
I wasn't let down. No, I thought. Please as we eventually get to the Urkel dance, please explain why you were let down by this part.
So this is where the Thelma and Louise section of the episode starts. When
Okay.
Steve walks into the party, we're in the car holding each other's hands and we're about to mash the gas pedal. This is where Family Matters went from being called Family Matters to being called Urkel.
Oh, okay. Now the I mean, please explain more because of course there is a lack of logic to how this Urkel dance was created and came together.
It makes
Um,
absolutely no sense.
now here's the thing. So on its own, as a viral moment that you've probably seen millions of times online, as an isolated clip, did it work for you, or was it still like, oh, you didn't like it?
As an isolated clip, thinking that this had nothing to do with the Family Matters episode, yes, it works. It's like a cute little early version of a TikTok dance. Seeing it in an episode of Family Matters, I was like, what are we doing? Like, y'all just said, okay, we're phoning it in. Let's do a dance number and give him a track that says Urkel. All right, I'm jumping to the Urkel dance. This thing pissed me off so much. I was like, what are we doing? There's no even, it's not even like fluidly put in here. It's not like we have a track. Y'all could have played Bobby Brown and just did the Urkel dance, and that would have been so cool. But the fact
Mm.
that we have a track that is singing Urkel at this random party that you were not invited to, I'm done. You could have just thrown the time machine in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unbelievable the idea that you had these grown ladies who were committed to going into a recording studio and singing a song about this little preteen nerd that they barely knew. Urkel, do the Urkel. And then somehow Urkel, maybe as he was lonely in his basement, maybe he invited a few friends over each night to rehearse this very specific choreographed dance. The creation of the Urkel dance, when you think about it, makes no sense. However, the lead up to it, I was following through on it, which was okay, Steve barges in uninvited like he always does. And he sees that the party is becoming lame and boring, and boys and girls are doing their separate Sadie Hawkins dance thing as they usually do. So Steve does what Steve does, and he wants to be the life of the party and cheer things up. And I bought that. I bought that premise. So that going having that lead into the Urkel dance, and then also just having that bias of always being like overjoyed whenever I see the Urkel dance. I'm biased. I was into it.
I'm happy you enjoy it. There's people who are going to enjoy it. I have to say, I did get happy when I remembered that Rick and Morty did the Urkel dance. And I was like,
Oh.
okay, this is kind of cool.
All right, all right. So, Steve comes in. He's impressed by the A-list people that Maxine has invited to her party, and then, just when I thought we would only see Harvey Garvey once, he excitedly says hi to Harvey, and then we got to see that kid's got awful teeth again. So, you know, please stop. And I think they did stop. I think Harvey was seen no more again. You loved Harvey, but to me, it was just the equivalent of seeing someone who had their arm just ripped off from a car crash, and I just had to see the scene over and over again. I know, yeah, arm ripped off from a car crash, kid with bad teeth, not the same thing,
No,
but
I
it,
just want to know, John, are you rewinding the video to watch the car crash?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
So to be clear, I've never seen an actual car crash with someone's arm ripped off. I've not seen it in person. I've not seen that in video. I was just using that as sort of a metaphor for how much I'm turned off by the sight of someone with barely much teeth. Unfortunately, up here in Vermont, we live in the northern parts where we have people that don't take care of their teeth, so I'm kind of used to that. So
Y'all
when I
have a
see
huge meth problem there. So you're dealing with meth mouth.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You're very aware. You see, people, it's not all Bernie Sanders and Ben and Jerry's and skiing for rich people. It's meth heads in trailer parks with bad teeth.
Whenever you see rich people, just know that there is meth around and they're most likely the ones supplying it.
All right. There you go. There you go. So my dessert, another one of my desserts comes in this scene. I love, 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 will always love Steve standing up to a bully like Willie. Steve goes to the group of guys and then greets them with howdy dooders. Willie's, of course, a dick, and he says, "Hey, look, it's Steve the dweeb." And then Steve is sarcastically like, good one, Fuffner. I bet you stayed up all night trying to put that sentence together. You must be exhausted. Why don't you sit down and rest before you crush your brain? I I don't know. There's just something I love about that because we could stay with the stereotype of like the nerd being like overwhelmed by the meanness of the bully and not doing anything about it. But Steve, even though, he's not the most strongest looking guy that could beat somebody, he just has a way of using his intelligence as a defense, as a strong defense against bullying tactics, and I just think it's great.
It is great. It is great. And I wish he would continue that same vein of thinking into his physical actions with
Ah.
bullies. Because it's like, damn, Steve, that was a good burn. But then you turn right around and just mess yourself up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Willie tells Urkel to be careful because the last guy who talked to him was Harvey Garvey. So now we find out, oh, Harvey got his teeth knocked out by Willie. Now, because you're so entertained by Harvey, are you thanking Willie for knocking Harvey's teeth out, or do you want to knock Willie out too?
And look, Harvey must have did something to get his teeth knocked out. Because Willie's small compared to him. So I don't know what happened.
Harvey asked out Laura in the hallway, God forbid.
That could be it.
Yeah, Steve is encouraging the guys to go out there and dance with the ladies who are waiting to be swept off of their Dr. Now, the internet told me that Dr. Scholl's is an orthopedic footwear brand. So I'm wondering why Steve thought that these teenage girls are 65 years and older. Is that what we no 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 you, I mean, you probably are more knowledgeable because anytime I hear the word orthopedic I think, oh, that's like that's like comfortable footwear for old people because an 80-year-old is not going to be comfortable wearing heels anymore, so they got to wear their Dr. Scholl's. Am I right on that or am I wrong?
I mean, Dr. Scholl's are for anybody. They make Dr. Scholl's for like sports sneakers. It's just all about comfort in your shoes. If you ever have foot pain, get a pair of Dr. Scholl's inserts. I'm telling you, it'll change your life. But I'm laughing because I just imagine that Steve wears Dr. Scholl's so he expects everybody else to wear them.
True, true, because I would imagine that the teenage girls are wearing, I don't know, fashion, probably not heels, but maybe somewhere sort of in between casual wear and heels to sort of dress themselves up for the party. And then this is this is where the iconic viral Urkel dance that you don't love so much commences. I'm kind of fascinated. I thought you were gonna like this, but you were just very much against this. I actually thought because of the story of this episode of Steve eventually getting drunk that it was going to be revealed that the Urkel dance was actually Urkel being drunk while doing it. But thankfully, he was sober while he was doing it. I love Steve's confidence. It's off the charts. He's standing up to bullies. He's livening up a boring party with a very choreographed dance. And I think the specific one of the specific parts of the Urkel dance that always gets me anytime I see it online is like, that suggestive, like, I'm telling you, baby, it's better than Elvis. And then he does like this weird contorted thing with his face, and then he does the subsequent dance movements. It's great. And also, I picked up on the fact that there's a second reference to Elvis, and the previous reference was made by Steve's surrogate grandmother, Estelle. So they both love Elvis.
They do. They both love Elvis. Oh crap. Oh, I forgot it. It left my head. Darn it. Oh, no, it didn't. It's back. Your idea would have been freaking phenomenal. If the Urkel dance was all just a drunk illusion, and then we cut to Steve dancing on the ledge saying Urkel dance and he's like drunk, I would have loved it. I would have
Mm.
loved it. Man, Urkel, I'm sorry. I don't like the Urkel dance.
Oh man, it's great. It's great. I mean, I wouldn't say I got like a big laugh out of it because I've seen it before.
Mhm.
It's just a joy to watch because it's one of those infectious things. You just kind of put a grin to your face if you like it, and you just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride of Urkel doing a sort of Michael Jackson thriller dance with people where they're following along his lead. And it's if there is a wedding that hasn't done an Urkel dance yet, shame on you. It wasn't done at my wedding, but I would implore any wedding out there to do the Urkel dance, and you'll find yourself having a good time. Um, I don't know if you noticed during that Urkel dance, there was a point where Steve was like lip syncing to the lady singers at their part where they were like, "Do it, do the Urkel," and then he like stopped after like a brief second, and I felt like that was Jalil's way of being like, I could lip sync, I could do this dance, but I can't do both at the same time. So never mind, I'm gonna give up."
I think he got caught up in the music and wasn't supposed to be mouthing.
Ah,
That's what it looked like to me because when he stops very abruptly, almost like somebody was looking off stage, like, stop moving your mouth.
right, right. And then, so let's see. I'm telling you, baby, it's better than Elvis. That's one part I liked. And then, I love a good Urkel snort. When I think it was when he combined the snort and the creepy pervert vibe that he does so well. So it was like he ho, 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 ho. And it makes me question the minds of the writers who always give Urkel that creepy pervert vibe. But somehow Jaleel does it so well where he makes me both concerned and laughing.
I am so happy that you said the word creep because now I have another reference point for the Urkel dance. The creep song that Nicki Minaj did on Saturday Night Live is all I'm thinking about now.
Oh, okay. I don't know that song. I'll have to look into it. I thought you were gonna say that the Urkel dance was sort of a whistle, like a whistle for a creep is coming, a pervert is coming, a, like
Okay,
a.
what? Do you have a pervert whistle? I need one. What?
I I wish I did, but wouldn't that be great? Like the Urkel dance is someone doing an Urkel dance in the street randomly, like some kind of fool, is a sign that a predator is on the loose.
Very much. I would be terrified if I saw a single person doing the Urkel dance by themselves in the middle of the street.
And if it's like a group of people doing the Urkel dance all at the same time on the street, that means a group of perverts are coming after you, and you better watch out.
Even scarier. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh boy, I love it. Yeah, okay. So I mentioned that Willie this is where Waldo does his Uncle Tom thing. Willie is planning to spike Urkel's punch because he's all jealous that everybody, Laura, Maxine, all the kids at the party are doing the Urkel dance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Willie is planning to spike Urkel's punch. Waldo is just like, what you gonna do, Willie? Well, why are you doing that, Willie? When Willie says he's going to spike Urkel's punch. So Waldo in full Uncle Tom effect here. And I don't know if the studio audience applause was live or terribly pre recorded. Probably the latter after the Urkel dance was done. Personally, I thought it was well deserved because uh, there are steps to this Urkel dance, and I'm sure that Gary Mentier, who directed, Janet Ling Jackson, who wrote it, they were like, all right, 20% of the rehearsing of this show is just going to be lines that people normally say, and then maybe like 80 or 90%, maybe 6 days we'll dedicate to just getting this Urkel dance down because It's involved.
It's involved, and it just makes me look at y'all sideways. You had to hire a choreographer to do this. Remember, this show was called Family Matters, and you hired a choreographer to come in here and do this always for life. If I meet you, I'm questioning you about it.
Yeah, yeah. You do get the feeling, as infectious as the Urkel dance is to me, you do get the feeling, especially when they repeat it in the end credits, you get the feeling that they were like, all right, let's get some Urkel O's, let's get a top song on the Billboard Hot 100. Like, Steve is popping. Let's try to cash in on this.
They saw the cash, they saw the dollar signs, and they wanted it. And they delivered something that has stuck in the psyche and social media spectrum for decades. So I can't blame them for it. But I still am upset at y'all.
Okay. And Urkel loves to use his $25 words that I have to look up online. When Fuffner was like faking being nice to him to get him to the spiked punch, and Urkel is just like, well, this is a pleasant turn of events. I thought you were incorrigible. Did you know what incorrigible meant?
I've used incorrigible a few times.
Why are you using, okay, for a guy who supposedly slacked off in school, why do you know so many big words that I don't know?
Because I watch television.
What? What television show gave you big words like that?
TLC was the learning channel. They have everything. Incorrigible is in tons of animes that I watch. I mean, incorrigible is a word that I've heard for years. So it's just one of those ones I'm like, oh, I got that. But honestly, people watch television, watch documentaries, sit your child in front of the TV, and they will be smarter than you think they will be.
TLC, the same place that aired Honey Boo Boo, like that they gave you.
No, no, no. That was the learning channel
Oh,
that I was watching. TLC now is where you go when you just want to see people worse off than you.
okay. Because I was gonna say like Honey Boo Boo, Dr. Pimple Popper, like that TLC, but okay, the days where it was really all about learning.
Yes, when you actually learned from the learning channel.
Got Gotcha. So I found out online that incorrigible is a fancy way of saying someone or something that's impossible to change or improve. And then of course Waldo had to make it better by accusing Urkel of calling Willie a gerbil because he just misheard the word incorrigible as gerbil.
I loved it.
Yeah. And then my last note for this scene three, Urkel taking a sip of the very spiked punch that Willie offers to him. He's clearly feeling that strong alcoholic effect. And then he was asking, what is this, mango? And maybe it's just me overthinking it, but I'm concerned that Urkel is just eating a lot of spiked mangoes because I know the taste of mango. I know the taste of strong alcohol. They're very different.
They're very different. So that means Herb and Diane are either drugging you to get you to go to sleep, which is very smart, or something's going on here. Now, my bone to pick at the end of this scene is the fact that Steve is like, whoa, what is that? Is that mango? And Laura is standing right there and does not say anything.
Yep.
We were so vocal about the alcohol before, but you just let Steve just drink and not know what he's drinking.
Laura is so dumb. Like as we get further and further into this, I just wrote down in my notes, dumbass Laura. Like like what hint do you need? What obvious hint do you need to know that Steve is drunk, out of his consent, and needs help ASAP?
Mhm.
We go
This is
into
the moment where she should have said something about the liquor.
yeah.
This was the moment.
You're all puritanical, above it all. Drinking is for losers. Don't drink. And then when someone's clearly drunk and out of their mind, Steve, what's happening? Why are you acting so weird? Like what? Oh God. Scene four. We go into part three of Maxine's rooftop party. Hey, I noticed that as we get that exterior view of the Chicago night skyline, what we use as our delicious recap opening theme music for season two, it played. And then, it's sad because we go from like what I call the collective kind fun of the Urkel dance, where everybody was just in symbiosis, having a good time, enjoying Urkel's life of the party shit that he was doing. And now we just have transitioned to cruelty as everybody is just laughing at Urkel being the drunk guy. And of course, he's clueless. He doesn't know that he's being laughed at with his animated drunk screaming. And yeah, this is where Laura just picked up that obliviousness that Harriet likes to do when Carl is logically angry at something. She's literally asking Steve what is wrong and telling him to calm down. Take the drink away from him. He's fucking drunk. He needs to go home.
Yes, he needs to go home. Rachel was in the background and watched the whole thing and did absolutely nothing.
Yes,
I'm like, you're standing there and you're an adult, so you know what drinking is.
right. I did not pick up on Rachel being there until she was asking Steve to get down from like the edge of the rooftop. So I'm glad that you noticed that because I didn't see Rachel until that last minute moment.
Mm.
Steve is drunkenly exclaiming that he of course he's drunk. He claims that he's the pipe of the party instead of the life of the party. And then he ends up spilling his drink onto Waldo behind him. And to add to the stupidity, Laura and Waldo, they just have these open mouth shock faces like, what is going on? Steve, why are you acting like this? Ay. Waldo, yes. Laura, ugh.
Laura, of all people, I'm like, Laura, you know what they were doing. And it's just like, come on, girl. Now, I can't victim blame here, but I do have to bring up the fact that Steve got handed the cup and was like, oh, you're my enemy. Let me take a drink from you. Steve, you're so incredibly smart. These are things that are not making sense here.
Yeah, yeah. So Steve is he's sort of aware, half aware of what's going on. So Waldo of all people is the one that has to tell Laura that Steve is acting weirder than usual because Willie spiked his punch. And I knew it was going to get to a point where Urkel was going to get up to the edge of the rooftop and almost, kill himself unintentionally, of course, because that's what always happens at a rooftop party when someone gets drunk. It's you always got to have that person that's like, ah, I'm having a good time, and oh, I jumped off the cliff and now I'm dead.
We have approached our Thelma and Louise cliff, and we are
Ah,
driving over the edge at this point. This is where we drive over the edge, and I have officially exited the vehicle.
talk to me.
Um,
Tell me more.
this is crazy. Steve falls off the building, and then all of a sudden, Rachel can tightrope walk.
Right.
What?
That's what I was saying later on. I was like, Rachel, like when Steve was at step one at the edge of the rooftop on the very tippy top, that was your moment to be the adult to step in when those stupid kids weren't stepping in to carefully get up to that edge and bring him down. He's a light little kid. That could have happened very easily. But no, what happens? Steve falls off that first part of the rooftop, the upper tip top, and then he ends up hanging on by his hands to the I think the mid part of the rooftop. What do you call that mid part of the apartment building? Like just
It's a little sled ledge over like a courtyard or something.
and at that moment, Rachel's like, God, somebody call 911. I better go to Steve right now. Like that's the moment where she decides to climb down a ladder and make an effort to help Steve out. It's just like, oh yeah, Rachel. I mean, going to this kid's party and catering and expecting a profit is one thing, but waiting until that moment to rescue Steve, what is going on?
You waited to then to rescue Steve, and now I'm questioning, are you sober, Rachel? Because why did you put yourself in even more danger to tightrope walk across a clothesline when you could have just gone downstairs and knocked on the neighbor's door?
Yep. Yep. You know what? On the other hand, I understand it from a story perspective because, these people got to fill 22 minutes. They got to build suspense some way. And in a sitcom like this, where a lot of the viewers are not looking for logicalness, Janet Ling Jackson and the other writers and producers, Gary Mentier directing it, they were just like, fuck it. We'll bypass these flaws in order to get to the payoff of the suspense, if that makes sense.
You know what? It makes sense. I would have preferred this entire episode to be a dream sequence.
Oh, yeah.
That would have made more sense to me.
Right, right. But of course, Steve is on that ledge hanging on for dear life, and Laura is asking Steve if he's okay. Oh, of course he's okay, just hanging on by a ledge for his dear life. And then Steve screams for the umpteenth time, I've fallen and I can't get up, which is something that I just don't need to hear right now because I was just, like you, so annoyed at this part. This could have been solved much more easily, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, but that is actually a dessert of mine when he says I've fallen and I can't get up. I actually laughed. I was like, okay, this is so insane that this fits to say this right now.
You'll never get tired of Steve saying that catchphrase.
I won't get tired of it until next episode, but I did like that it fit with the craziness of the theme.
Wait a minute. Are you watching ahead of me, man? You were talking about this episode in our last episode. Now you're already talking about next episode. You already know what next episode is going to be.
No, I have no idea what's in the next episode.
Oh,
I haven't watched it.
okay. All right, all right. So we go into scene 5. I call it Maxine's rooftop party. Steve needs help edition. And yeah, this is where Rachel decides to be a smart adult and actually help Steve. And she, of course, we already established she's climbing down the ladder. And the tightrope walk thing, where Rachel is directly across from Steve, like where he's hanging on by the ledge, and there's that clothesline that separates them. And Rachel decides she's going to use her circus acrobat experience to close her eyes and carefully tightrope walk and do this because she's going to be the hero. Literally, I wrote in my notes, what the fuck is happening here? What is happening?
Weird, weird, weird. Rachel had on character shoes. If you're not familiar with tap dancing, character shoes are shoes that are specifically meant to perform on a stage. Now, they can have taps on them, they cannot have taps on them, but no person in their right mind is going to wear character shoes out into the world because your feet would be destroyed. And I was like, what? How did we get here?
Yeah, yeah. It's the most undeserved studio audience applause ever. Like once Rachel does get to the end of that tightrope walk and rescue Steve, it's like no, she could have rescued him about 25 minutes ago. But I will say, on a positive note, this large, bleak exterior apartment building setup that we have, as Steve is wondering if he's gonna die, I liked that exterior. I didn't like the last 2 exteriors from the last couple episodes, but I thought it was a pretty realistic looking, like gritty inner city Chicago exterior apartment building setup. So props to the set design team for doing that. I don't know if you had any thoughts about it or if you were just like, man.
Actually, yes, the set design is one of my desserts. And I love this exterior of the building. I think this set played very well for the episode because it's big, it's navigatable. We could see people go on and off stage and completely disappear from the set and think like it's really a real building. So it was good set design.
There you go. Now, as we get into scene 6, which is like the aftermath of Steve being rescued at Maxine's rooftop party, anything that you liked at the aftermath of it, or did you still get a sour taste in your mouth as we were wrapping up this A story?
You know, that's a good question because the answer is there is nothing I liked about it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I like just looking at it and I'm reading through my notes again as I think about it. I thought it was so clunky the way that the cops are there and they're arresting Waldo and Willie, but they give Laura this chance to have a monologue before they take them out in custody.
Oh yeah.
It just like I was just like, this is a little weird.
Yep. Yep. That's Laura's lectury after school special moment. We love that so much. I will say, like, there was a dessert that started off this scene just nice for me from Waldo. He did make me laugh when the police were searching him and Willie, and one of the officers was asking Willie where he hid the booze. Willie pretends that he doesn't know what the officer is talking about, and then Waldo was just like, Willie, he means the booze. I was hiding it in my coat, Willie. And then he opens his coat to reveal like several empty spaces where the booze was. It's just great. I mean, look, Dumb Eddie, I was annoyed of him a lot in season 1, but there's just something about Dumb Waldo that just puts a warmth to my heart.
Dumb Waldo is lovable. Waldo is a lovable character.
Yeah. And then the dramatic purist speech that Laura was giving that you and I are not crazy about. That's what happens at this moment here. Willie claims that they were just having a little fun, and then Laura's just like, what is wrong with you? Don't you know Steve could have been killed? Drinking is not always fun. It could be dangerous. Shut up. Shut up. And I think what irritated me more, you heard like the rest of the kids agreeing with Laura, like, yeah, shame on you, Willie and Waldo, as if they weren't like contributing to this underage drinking culture by, taking part in the spiked punches, just watching Steve almost risk his life off the edge of that rooftop. I was like, shut the fuck up, everybody.
When I saw the kids behind her, like, yeah, I looked at my TV and I was like, half of you bitches had a drink. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was just so fucking dumb. Oh man. All right, so we've established that Aunt Rachel has taken Steve home, and Willie and Waldo, they're off to juvie until their parents pick them up. I don't know. Do you think that Officer Carl Winslow would have made a better difference in this scene, or do you think he didn't deserve such a meh part?
I'm very happy that Carl didn't get put in the scene. I think that would have made me not like it even more because I'd be like, okay, so Carl just happens to be the officer to respond to this party. That's not really likely, but then I got to take myself out of the real world experience of it. I do like that we got these officers who didn't really do anything to like take away from the scene because it kind of kept it at least a little more neutral because I feel like if Carl was there, then we're gonna have to get some kind of lecture about Laura. You shouldn't be at parties where people are drinking.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be part of my delicious star rating toward the end of the episode. I wonder as we close out I mean, pretty much close out the climax of this A story, if you were looking at the length of the episode and wondering, like, wait, what? We passed the climax of the A story and there's 7 minutes left in the episode. What are we doing now? And this was before I found out that we were wrapping up the B story and officially wrapping up the A story. But I don't know. I felt like since we've gotten through the climax of the episode, it just felt like there should be like 2 minutes left instead of 7 minutes left.
I thought that too because I looked at the progression of where it was on Hulu and I was like, oh my God, there's still 7 minutes left. Do we have to see another like Urkel dance or something? But pleasantly, this is where my main course starts.
Oh, okay. So you like the episode better when it comes close to ending.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So we wrap up our B story going back to the living room in scene 7. Mama Winslow is knitting. Harriet has what appears to be plane tickets. Are they plane tickets in a brochure?
I think it's just a brochure from booking.
Okay, because it said travel, and I was thinking there might be plane tickets in there. And if they were, I had a thought about that. But she's happily confirming to Mama Winslow that the family has decided on Carl's preference of going to Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, 6 days, 5 nights. Um, and you're saying that it's just a brochure and that the family is not stupid enough to take a flight to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. I checked. From Chicago, it's only an hour and a half. So that would be like a 5 minute flight.
Yeah, there's no way they would do that. Like, if you took a flight just for that, I would look at them like, no wonder why y'all can't afford anything.
So, what did you love about this scene? I mean, I'm guessing you loved the B story and how it wrapped up.
So I love Carl in this scene. Carl is gold to me.
Yep, he's my dessert.
Um,
Yep,
it's my appetizer main course, and it is one of my desserts. Honestly,
nice.
it made me laugh so hard on my couch. After Harriet's like everything's all booked, she's all good, and Carl walks in from a long day of work, and she's like, "We decided where we're going on vacation," and his rant is just so funny. I rewatched it about 10 times.
Yeah, because of course, before Harriet has a chance to go further, he's being very presumptuous that once again, the family is not choosing where I want to go. Um, yeah, he makes me laugh too. I mean, this was another one of my desserts. He automatically assumes it's a place he doesn't like. He dramatically drops his police bag. He makes this scrunched up face. He hunches up his shoulders from the tension of thinking that he's not getting what he wants. And then he just lectures Harriet and Mama Winslow like, I work so hard. I bring in nearly 50% of the family's bacon. And then, of course, you cue Mama Winslow like, yeah, you eat nearly 90% of it. And then, he's like, oh, I do all this work and I don't even get a Carl. Would you like some trail mix? And I think one line in his rant really got to me. Remember that part where he was like, all I'm asking is one silly little week and one silly little spot that I'd like to choose. Like it just Reginald was like he was hamming it up in this moment, and I was all for it.
He was, I was laughing. Every moment of it was just so funny. I think what sent me the most is when he said, I can't even get trail mix. I don't know why the trail mix, and it's making me laugh now. I don't know why him saying trail mix made me scream, but I was just laughing my butt off.
I want to talk to you about that because I'm having a different idea of trail mix than this family has. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, when Harriet is like, she's like, "Oh, Carl, cork it. We've already made a reservation," and then Carl's like, "Huh? So you made a reservation?" And it was great. And then he looks at the travel brochure and then he says something in the manner of like, well, let's see what this reservation is. And then he looks, and once he sees that it's Lake Geneva, the clumsy, awkward, nervous smile that he has when he realizes he was wrong about everything, it was wonderful. He was just like, "She, guys, that's swell."
It's so good.
Yeah, yeah. And going to the trail mix part, Carl, he tries to soften the blow by saying that, I'll just go into the kitchen and make the whole family some trail mix. Now, when I think of trail mix, maybe this is the big difference between 1991 and 2025. I think of like just those little portable packs of trail mix that you can get at the grocery store. Apparently, Carl is describing trail mix as like this big popcorn bowl sized meal that the family can have. Or I don't know, maybe he's like making homemade trail mix for the road for when they go to Lake Geneva. Like what is it?
He could possibly be making both. I mean, trail mix, at least when I was growing up, you could buy it prepackaged. But I remember in school and at home, we would just make our own. You just get all the ingredients you want in your mix and just mix it in a big bowl and kind of like popcorn. You just munch on it with friends. So he could be doing that, or he could be making like a special trail mix to take on the road. It could be anything.
All right, that's possible. And that wraps up our B story. I don't know. Did you have anything else about that B story before we wrap up our A story in the next scene?
I loved every single moment of our B story getting wrapped up. The only thing I was like hoping for was like if Carl threw his tantrum and then Harriet's like, well, you know what? Now we're switching. And I would have screamed.
Well, I was gonna take you to Lake Geneva, but now, Carl, we're gonna see fucking Wicked on Broadway. How about that, bitch?
I would be in heaven for that.
So I believe we're going to our final scene in the kitchen, scene 8. We open with the exterior of the Winslow house during the day and the words "the next morning." Essentially, we have Steve with his hangover and Carl curing him of it. What did you think about this last scene?
I thought this scene was actually pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Steve with his little ice pack on his head, and then when he tries to snort and it hurts. I just scream when he said some part of his body came out the back of his head, and I just screamed.
I mean, I know Steve is a kid, and this is probably his very first time, not only getting drunk, but maybe having a sip of alcohol. But he just that imagine getting pampered with a big ice pack on your head, and then it gets all wrapped up with this fancy red bow anytime you have a hangover. I mean, do you give yourself that treatment when you get a hangover, or do you just drink some water, go to sleep, take some Advil, call it a night?
The last time I had a hangover, I was in Mexico. And the way to beat a hangover is to get drunk again. So you have to go out and drink. Whenever I have a hangover, you just go and drink whatever you drink. It's called chasing the hair of the dog. And I'm telling you, you will feel 100% better.
How? I feel like I would feel 100% worse. Like I would just like, get more drunk and more vomity and hate alcohol even more.
You gotta taper yourself off. Like take it from a professional drinker. You gotta taper off slowly. Because if you just stop, that's when you have the hangover, and it's like, oh, this is terrible. Or start using Z-Biotic. Z-Biotic, and this is not an ad because they're not paying us yet, but it actually works when it comes to having a hangover. If you take this little packet of it's like powder and you mix it with a thing, and then have a heavy night of drinking, you're not gonna have a hangover.
Hmm. Okay. Well, speaking of all these hangover cures that has been suggested out there, I was kind of taken for a few reasons by the excitement that Carl portrayed in fixing Steve up his version of a hangover remedy in a blender. One, I just come at it from a place of like, hey, you do drinking, Andrew, you do more drinking. I just think like, oh, Carl, instead of like making the effort to go through this to make this blended drink, just recommend water, carby foods, sleep, Advil. No, I mean it's worked for me. Everybody's different, I think, but you're saying no, it doesn't work.
Water will make you feel drunker.
Hmm.
And when you're hungover, it's not because you're dehydrated. It's actually this just byproduct that builds in your stomach essentially and is in your blood. It's the leftover of the alcohol. And my hangover remedy, if it's not getting drunk again, it's going to brunch. I want to eat something. I want to be out and have the wind on my face. And if you got to throw up, make yourself throw up. Don't try to hold it in. The more you hold in the vomit, the worse your hangover feels.
Yeah, and also I feel like that would just be uncomfortable for like your throat, your head. I just, yeah, it's almost like holding in a poop. Like who wants to do that?
Yeah, just get it. It's not gonna feel good, but just get it out. And then once you get it out, you're good.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting that you say that. I mean, water has worked for me. I've had I mean, certainly, well, I don't even know. Did I drink water when I was with you in Rochester, New York for that drag show? I don't know what I did. It was a night. I don't think you and I remember much from that night. I'm sure I
Well,
drank some water on the way home, but
yes,
go ahead,
you
go ahead.
had abnormal liquor. You had Rumplemans. That stuff is dangerous. So there's no recovery that's easy from that.
Oh, yeah, okay, okay. Eventually, I lived. I mean, I've already told the story about vomiting quite a bit outside the hotel room and just having a poor family pass by and seeing my vomity self in the hallway. But yeah, no, I don't know. In the past, I've danced, I've drank, and I've drank water toward the end of the night to like take the edge off, and it takes me from drunk to like a reasonable half tired buzz where I'm safe enough to drive home if I'm close enough to home. Yeah, I don't know. Water has worked for me, and I guess for others it might not work. So it just
Yeah.
depends on who you are. I think it was uncharacteristic for Carl to be so exuberant at Steve's presence the way he was. I found that very weird. I was like, it might have been more in character for Carl to like put his police officer hat on and inquire about the underage drinking that was happening at the party, maybe asking if Laura was affected or at all. But no, he was just so excited to fix his hangover remedy for Steve.
Carl to me is what I would expect or hope from a parent
Yeah.
who's like nursing a kid who went through a situation like this. Because it's not Steve's fault. Steve isn't like out just randomly drinking. He was drugged essentially. So I like that Carl's like, hey, I'm going to treat you with kid gloves. But I don't know if it's maybe just me or just if you just happen to be one of those people who's like, I know how to fight a hangover, or you're Malcolm X and when Denzel Washington was playing him and you make somebody a drink to hold them over from drugs. Kind of helps. You feel good about it.
I have to watch that movie again. That actually happened. Malcolm, was it Malcolm who had drugs and then he had a drink to cure him?
No, somebody in the movie, and I have to watch it over again. I think it was somebody who he was in prison with, was detoxing from heroin. So he made him nutmeg tea, which is supposed to be like a cure for like the withdrawal of heroin. And the exuberance he has when he's making this for this man, I was like, this looks like so much fun. I want to get on heroin so I can try this.
I love that. I love that. So Carl is turning on the blender to make the remedy, and it becomes way too loud for Steve. And Steve lets out a quieter, throaty, more deep voiced shriek. And I don't know if you thought about this, but I was thinking like, oh, maybe Jaleel like didn't have like the full vocal power to let out like a really like 100% high pitched nerdy scream. He was just on the cusp of puberty. Season 3, once we get into it, we're gonna hear that voice change in his
Mhm.
attempts to stay high pitched. So I think we're gonna start to feel bad for Jaleel.
Is happening. It looked like it was painful for him to even hit the note he did. So I was like, ooh, what's happening? This is that voice dropping.
Yeah. So Carl, in his quest to become a comforting, nursing adult, as you had mentioned, he was telling Steve his story about like his officer coworkers also spiking his drink and him ending up riding a cow down the expressway, which I found hard to believe. I mean, I've seen a lot of cows up here in Vermont, and I know them to be very lazy and boring. So I I don't know if you'll find one that's willing to be like, yeah, let's go, let's run. Like, do you have an experience with a cow that that would be willing to take a ride like that?
I sure do. I
Really?
sure do, actually.
Tell more.
I was out camping with friends and we were camping. This was years ago. We were near a cow farm. We broke into the cow farm because, of course, we were all drinking and just like, oh, this will be fun. And we were going to push a cow over, but we couldn't find a cow to push. And then when we finally found a cow, I just hugged it and started crying. So.
But did you ride the cow to an expressway?
I probably could have happened, but thank goodness no.
How did the cow react? The cow was just like, sure, why
It
not?
kind
Yeah,
of
I'll
just
get.
was doing the cow thing, the cow stuff.
What is the cow stuff? The cow stuff to me, I've only seen them just like sit still and eat grass and just stare at people like me and my dog passing by. Like they just seem like
Yes.
they're very boring.
They're very boring. I think it mood, it was like, and then just kind of like, oh, well, you guys are drunk. And we were near a college town, so I'm pretty sure we're not the first drunk people that cow saw.
Yeah. Oh my God. I also was laughing at Steve's snort laugh and then him being pained by it. Um I think he was like hee, and he was like ow, and then he snorted, and then it like hurt his head.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It was so funny.
yeah. This is my junk food. Steve proclaiming that liquor will never touch his lips again, and Carl simply saying, "Good for you." Again, I will stress the black and white puritanical thinking about drinking. We don't need that. Moderate yourself, make good judgment calls when you're drinking and having a good time, and you'll be fine.
Yes, monitor yourself and let's just glaze over the fact that Carl just admitted that he was drugged by a police officer, which is a crime.
Ooh, Steve brushed past that. Ooh,
Hmm.
I did not pick up on that. I didn't even know that was a crime. Thank you for that.
Yes, drugging anybody is a crime.
Well, police officer spiking another police officer's drink. That's a
Is
crime.
a crime. Hell yes. That if somebody gives you a substance that you did not know you were taking, that is a crime.
Oh, okay. So I was approaching it from like the specific police officer to police officer perspective, but you're approaching it from the general overall perspective. Yes, that is a crime. Yes.
Yes, someone who's supposed to uphold the law just drugged you. Another person who's supposed to uphold the law. That's serious. We need to talk about that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in 1991, we were just like, yeah, whatever. Frat prank, good time. People do it on each other. It's great. And then now in 2025, it's like, no, this was done without consent. Dangerous things could have happened. This is
Hmm.
serious.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh God. And then Steve was downing an entire glass of Carl's rancid hangover cure and adding to just the unrealisticness of all of this. He just felt great. He's like, oh, I feel like. Do you feel good that quickly after a hangover cure? Like where you feel like $1 million and you could just stand up and do anything?
Depending on the cure, maybe. But I imagine from experience, you're going to feel that euphoric feeling for about 5 seconds, and then you are about to vomit bricks.
Ah, so Steve, I guess, had his own version of this because he was like, yeah, it feels good. And then, ooh, shit, I gotta take a poop. Where's the bathroom? Like it just automatically worked as a laxative. And he was racing to the living room. And then we hear Steve from the living room shout to Laura, like, oh, I can't talk right now. And it doesn't sound like he's in the living room. It sounds like a pre-recorded audio piece that they just played off camera. Because I feel like if it was from the living room, it would have more of an echoey quality to it.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we see Carl laughing at Steve running to the bathroom to take a nice big hangover shit. And that is it, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the episode.
Oh, well, I mean, unless you count the repeat Urkel dance at the end, a la, the Christmas montage repeat thing that we had dealt with a few weeks ago.
And so a part of my rating is trying to understand if I was more offended by the repetition of a montage or the Urkel dance. Like I didn't know which one offended me more.
I honestly think they were trying to kill time. I think that the Christmas montage had to be a mixture of killing time and maybe stressing that sentiment of, oh, it's the holidays. The Winslows are your favorite TV holiday family. And then the Urkel dance was definitely like, we got to kill time. And also, this thing could be a phenomenon. So let's keep on plugging it and maybe we'll hear it on the radio constantly every day in 1991.
This episode, this was
So now that you don't like it more than I thought you would not like it, what's your rating? Tell me what you rate this.
so I have never given a 0 star.
Oh God. No, I think
Um,
you did. No, you gave a 0 star to one episode. It was like a while ago, but I remember you gave it to one episode.
I
Requiem for an
did.
Urkel. I think it was Requiem for an Urkel that you weren't crazy about.
Okay, then if I gave that a 0 star, then this is a 0 star. It's hard for me to like this episode because I just feel personally that this is that episode where we drove off the Urkel cliff.
Mm.
Like the continuity of it, I have some very big problems when it comes to Laura and her reaction to drinking, but then not reacting the same way when she knew Steve was being drugged but didn't say anything.
Mhm.
The Urkel dance itself and the soundtrack for the Urkel dance that just really just took me out of the immersion of this being a show called Family Matters, because at that point I'm like, it doesn't matter what the family's doing, it's just about Urkel.
Right.
I just think it was a very wasted opportunity. Could have still gotten the Urkel dance, but in a context that would have made sense.
Mm.
I just feel like it didn't make sense here. It didn't play well here for me. The saving grace for this episode, which keeps it from being like a -0, is the fact that I laughed my ass off at Carl.
Yeah.
Carl like really stole this episode for me. Harriet with the travel plans made me laugh even more. But it was just that rant that Carl goes on in scene, what was it, six? That just
Something like that. Yeah.
that last scene where he rants, I was just like, oh, this is good. This should have been our main story here, and I would have been in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you think the Urkel dance would have made sense?
The Urkel dance would have made sense if they were at prom and
Oh,
like
yeah.
Urkel wanted to bust something out. Or the Urkel dance would have made sense if it was just a cold opening. I would have been so happy with that. The Urkel dance would have been cool if it would have just been in the credits. I would have been perfectly fine with that. But not in the middle of a scene that is supposed to be serious with serious acting and a situation that's affecting a family member. I just didn't feel like it fit there.
Right, right. This teenage rooftop party that had the undertone of an after school special with drinks being involved, spike punch, and then hey, all of a sudden it turns child friendly with Steve doing an Urkel dance that seems like it would last for like 5 to 7 minutes. So
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Actually, I'm going to be a lot more generous. I am giving this a 2.6. I found it to be a pretty decent episode. You and I are linked in arms about Carl and the B story. That was my first comment. The B story showcased Carl really well, first with the air horn, and then that presumptuous rant that he went on, thinking that, Harriet did not book his kind of vacation. I mean, just everything from Reginald's facial expressions, the physical comedic choices that he was making, with his arms and everything, his vocal tones, just everything. Reginald is right up there with Jaleel as a skilled comedic actor who just knows those beats really well. So I thought that the way Carl handled that B story was wonderful. I think the A story flourished pretty well with Rachel showing off her fun antness with the embarrassing mom dance. I call it mom dance when I should call it embarrassing aunt dance. So let's just call it that. When Rachel gives that fun aunt energy like she did, it's just wonderful. I can watch it all day. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Urkel dance. I think it is a great watch as a isolated viral clip online, and even in the context of this episode, where yes, it does kind of come out of nowhere as I kind of expected. But I don't know. I think it, everything from the lyrics to just the dance moves to Steve Urkel's facial expressions as he's dancing to his creepy pervert vibes when he's singing or dancing along. I mean, it's just an infectious piece of comedy that I will always love, no matter what context it is in. Steve sets a great example for nerds being able to stand up to bullies. I loved that. I love the amusing, adorable dumbness of Waldo. Can't wait to see more of that. And yeah, I was very disappointed and fed up with Laura, Rachel, and the rest of those teenagers not using their brains to rescue drunk Steve from that rooftop. But there's also that part of my brain that's like, well, they need to build suspense. They need to fill out their 22 minutes, and that was a way to do it. So I'm not going to count it against them as junk food that I would have thrown away because, when you're trying to put out a family friendly 22-minute sitcom, you got to try to extend and build and expand a story in some way. And I guess that was the best way that Janet could come up with. So hopefully we get her on the podcast to talk more about this episode because, especially I think, with the Urkel dance really defining this episode, I'm curious as to what she thinks about it. Oh, going back to your point about how you kind of liked that we didn't get so much lecturing about the heavy like about the underage drinking, I was actually surprised that we didn't get so much heavy-handed lecturing from like say the adults about the consequences of underage drinking. Like that would have been a perfect opportunity for Carl to give a sappy lesson like that to Steve at the last scene. I'm sure Rachel could have given a sappy lecturing lesson to Steve once she took him home. So I think it was an interesting choice that I admire that the show kind of avoided that sappy sort of after school special extended lesson on why you shouldn't drink when you're underage. And they just kind of made it as simple as like, oh, some guys spiked Steve's drinks. Steve gets home safely eventually. Willie and Waldo go to juvie. Next scene, Steve is comforted by Carl. The end. And then the B story. Oh, I don't even think I mentioned this as a junk food. So my problem with the B story was just the placement of it. I thought it was just very odd that we start off with it and then we don't see it until like, I don't know, 19 minutes out of a 22-minute episode. It was just like really weird. I felt like it would have been better if it was bumped up a little bit more, but I felt like
Mhm.
for especially how it resolved so well with Carl, I felt like it deserved to be bumped up a little more rather than kind of like shoved toward the end. Everything in moderation. Drinking doesn't need to cause cancer if you use it in moderation. If you're of age, if you're not consuming alcohol as replacement for therapy, we're good.
Drinking causes can a lot of things cause cancer. A
Yeah.
lot of things.
Present, future, prospective delicious. Please listen, watch, subscribe, follow, rate, review the Delicious Recap wherever you get podcasts. You can send all questions, comments, concerns, and feedback to the Delicious Recap at gmail.com. We always love to hear from fans like Adam and David and The Claw, as he or she or they like to go by on YouTube. They sent us an email not too long ago, so thank you for that. You can follow us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook. I mean, TikTok, I don't know how long it's going to last, but we're recording this on the 14th of January, so we'll see. But while it's surviving, you can still follow us there. And please subscribe to our Patreon for just $5 a month. You can get the episode recaps and interviews early ahead of the general public release. Patreon.com/delicious recap. We would love to see you there. And how can they follow you, Andrew?
You guys can follow me. Come to China. Red Note is the place that you can follow me on. Red Note is the app. I suggest that everybody downloads it if you still want to have the fun of TikTok without TikTok. I'm AJ Vandertunt on there, the same way I'm AJ Vandertunt everywhere.
Oh, do you want to give us a little deliciousness ring to sign us off?
Yes, let's give some deliciousness here because this episode, even though it was so different for each of us, we still sat down and had a meal. So we're going to let that deliciousness ring.